Don't you hate it when you pull a minor prank on your friend and it kind of spirals out of control and now you're taking all of his money to a distant business venture? Well, that's not a new phenomenon. The Baal Shem Tov was once traveling to a wedding, escorted by a group of his students, and on the way, they encounter a Jewish man riding a wagon. The Baal Shem Tov unassumingly approaches this guy and whispers a few words to him. The guy whispers a few words back. Conversation goes on for maybe another 10 more seconds, and that's it. The students are left puzzled as to the contents of that conversation. But the rule is, if the Baal Shem Tov is approaching an individual in confidence, this person is not just a regular person. So the students assumed that this guy was a major rabbi or a tzaddik, a righteous person of sorts, and they really wanted to get to the bottom of it, maybe glean some lessons from this righteous man. So the younger students make their way to him and call out, "Rabbi, Shalom Aleichem." And the guy says, "I'm no rabbi." So he says, "Of course you're a tzaddik, of course you're a righteous person. The Baal Shem Tov wouldn't be going over to you otherwise." So he says, "I've never been called a rabbi, I've never been called a tzaddik, I don't know what you're talking about." So the students say, "Please, the Baal Shem Tov made a point of talking to you. There must be clearly something very important going on that you're involved with." So the simple man says, "I prefer not talking about it." And as is common among young people, these students did not recognize any limits, and they continued to pressure him to share the details of what the Baal Shem Tov spoke to him about. Finally, he relented and he told them the following story. He says, "I have a best friend whom I've known since childhood. There are no secrets between us. My friend is a traveling peddler. He goes from town to town selling small things, and after a recent trip, he returned home and I went to greet him. While greeting him, I noticed that the bundle of money that he had earned during this last trip was kind of just lying there on the shelf out in the open. So to teach my dear friend a lesson on the importance of taking care of your money, I snatched it with every intention of giving it back after he had a little scare and learned his lesson. Of course, the moment the friend notices the money gone, he starts frantically searching, immediately calls his wife and all his kids to join the search. Everybody is schwitzing. The ruckus attracts the attention of the neighbors. They come in and start to help with the search. Gradually, the husband and the wife begin to enter a fainting spell. Everybody's trying to keep them in consciousness. The children are raising their hands to the heavens, praying and sobbing to God to please help return this money. So our simple Jew, hearing the commotion, heads back to his friend's home to return the money, but he sees that his entire neighborhood is at the home. So he's very reluctant to fess up while everyone's there, so he figured he'll wait until later, when fewer people are at the home. But as later comes, there are more people at the home. And now it looks even worse. Had he returned the money when he came to the home that first time with everyone there, it would have been awkward, but they would have figured he had no intention of stealing the money. But now that he's hung out in that home for a while and joined the search committee, then people would suspect him not for playing a practical joke or trying to teach a lesson, but for actually intending to steal it. So he figured he'll wait even later until nighttime, once everybody leaves and things have finally quieted down. But he gets there at nighttime, and it is true that most people had left, but it's just the family now, and everybody is sobbing, and he sobs as well, and the family assumes that it's because he feels bad for them like everybody else, when in reality he was sobbing about how deep he dug himself into this hole, and even then he couldn't bring himself to admit that he took the money. Things got even worse the next day, because the individuals who the peddler was in debt toward started suspecting that this was all one big ruse, and he was really attempting to avoid paying his debts. So the house becomes filled not only with sympathizers helping with the search, but pretty soon there's angry people, and yelling matches commence. They pounded on the table, "Liar! Thief!" And as the situation continued to spiral, the simple man says, "I definitely could not return the money at this point." They began formulating this convoluted scheme to wait until this entire dust-up settles, and in the meantime, invest that money in good investments or some business. And then down the road, when I return the money, I'll return it with all of the value gained. The problem was, if I would just start a huge new venture in my town, everybody would wonder where I got this money from. So my twisted thinking continued. I'll go to a faraway town and begin engaging in a new business there. And that's what I did. I gathered up some belongings, took my money, and began traveling to a faraway city. But on the road, I stumbled upon you, and here this rabbi with a great flowing beard, whom I had never seen before, suddenly approaches me with the following words: "Go ahead and return the money, and if there's ever a court case in your town against you for stealing this, I will testify on your behalf," says the rabbi, "that your intention was not one of thievery." And with that, says the simple Jew, I resolved to return home and return the money, and a huge stone was lifted from my heart. There are many lessons from this story, but one of them is that oftentimes an untruth requires further untruths to justify the previous ones. And sometimes one needs to cut through all of that with one piece of truth, even if it's difficult to deliver.